Podcasting from the studio in Brooklyn, New York, this is the Brooklyn Baritone Podcast. Hey everyone, it's later in the day when I'm recording this, but whenever you choose to join me, morning, afternoon, nighttime, late at night, it doesn't matter. I appreciate the likes, the looks, the listens, and of course, I'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe and notification bell on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone. But of course, do that if you want to, no pressure. I miss seeing the father from Good Times. Because when you looked at him, you automatically knew that there were consequences if you crossed a certain line. And that's what we're missing with a lot of things, is understanding the proper consequences. And that's with everything. And see, it goes both ways, because life imitates art, definitely. But then art media definitely influences life heavily. I was talking with my good friends, Mrs. Jones. I mentioned her in the past before. And we were just talking about the representation of parents and decline of the proper authority that parents are supposed to be and represent in the lives of their children. The unfortunate part is that there's been a heavy trend in having parents look very, foolhardy. You could say spineless. You could say too friendly, in a sense. It's cool to be friendly, open with your children, but you can't be a friend. And many of the things that's represented, you see it in commercials, you see it in TV shows, you see it in movies. One movie I remember back in the day called Problem Child is basically father, the guy from Three's Company, John Ritter. He played a single father, and just as the movie title implied, it's a problem child. So this boy was giving so much problems, doing things that he shouldn't even be allowed to do. So many people will probably inflict so much types of discipline on him. But the thing is, it's not just about physical discipline. It's not all about that. And unfortunately, so many people, they take the worst of any scenario or situation and they build their pulpit on it. They build their platform on it, and they get so much people behind them. Child abuse has to stop. It's a terrible thing. But then we have to understand, what is child abuse? And of course, I understand, might as well just stop it all so it doesn't come up again. But now you're setting the dangerous ground and territory of not being able to discipline your child. That means not being able to talk to them sternly, not being able to put certain restrictions on them now, because here we are, we could do what we want to do. As I said in my last podcast with the whole change of the motion picture thing, and I talked about Euphoria and the depiction of that's supposed to be a current, accurate picture of many teenagers. Many teenagers do live in that certain manner, unfortunately, but that's not everybody, and it's not normal, and it's not right. So the issue is the consequences that we see reflected in our media. The Problem Child. You see, Bart Simpson. You see so many different TV shows. So many I've seen, movies I've seen, where the parent is like more a friend, a doofy kind of side character, like, in my head just now I thought of the Transformers Michael Bay movie, how the parents are acting and stuff. People don't act like parents anymore. People don't act like authority figures. People don't want authority. And then these are the same people who don't want authority, want to be the authority. How are you going to be an authority figure when you don't know what authority is? When you've done all you can to resist? Now, it may not be you specifically, directly, but as a whole in general, this is what we've done. This is what we've beat our drums to, basically. And we could see it, even though it was the 70s, and that was the start of the decline of the representation in America, definitely, of what parents are. Letting the prisoners run the penitentiary, basically. And now this is the mindset that we have now, to let people understand that this is authority. This is freedom. A lot of people, and talking about freedom, people will be quick to tell you freedom of speech. We can say whatever we want. And yes, it is our God-given right to say what we want. At the same time, it is our God-given responsibility to be careful of what we say and how we say it, especially our actions or what we do, because again, they have consequences. We have to be reminded. It's like James Evans is sitting there right there with his arms crossed. We don't have that. We didn't have that. That's been kind of stripped away, dumbed down. A lot of men have not been there. They have been raised right. A lot of men just didn't do the right thing. A lot of women also played a part in that too, not like having men in the children's lives in a proper mindset. In a lot of games, a lot of people, men and women play a part. I'm not going to get into the whole gender thing. Both parties collectively have had their hand. Socially, we've allowed too much things to happen to take away the rights of the parents. Now it's going into the rights of law, government, social structures. And then we could see, unfortunately, that they don't have our best interests at heart. They'll tell us how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. And unfortunately, when I say we're lacking consequences, we don't fear consequences. People were saying that America is supposed to be God-fearing. America doesn't fear God anymore. Even more importantly, a lot of America collectively doesn't fear consequences. That's why so many people run off at the mouth. If we understood the consequences, how deep those daggers that come out of our mouth cut, we'd be mindful. If we were empathetic or sympathetic, we would know even if those consequences may not come back to us, it's going to hurt someone. It's going to cause damage. It's going to cause a degradation of any interaction that I have. It's going to cause a degradation of any kind of influence that I may leave behind. That's going to be your legacy. Saying what you want, how you want to say it, don't care. Too bad, too sad. Remember Dave Chappelle's show? The segment he had, the skit, when keeping it real goes wrong. It goes wrong every single day, but we don't stick around for the consequences. Too bad, too sad. But best believe, when we leave things left unchecked, we go from James Evans to Homer Simpson. We go all the way from parents doing what they need to do in their homes and children grow to be responsible, mindful, good stewards, to a bunch of people who don't care what they say, how they say it. Too bad, too sad. There are people now, unfortunately, as we can see with this past pandemic response, so many people who were on the side of taking vaccines were more than willing to see their neighbors, their families thrown out into the streets. I hope you die trying to get medication. I hope you will never get admitted to a hospital. You should lose your job. These are the words that were coming out of people's mouths, okay? Because people don't care about consequences. Consequences for other people, but not themselves. Anyways, that's all I want to say. I want to be too long on this one. If you want to catch more of my content, please check out my website at brooklynbaritone.com. Check out some merchandise too. There's something there for everyone. You can find more of my video content on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone, and I'm also on rumble.com at Brooklyn Baritone. I'm also found on LinkedIn under Corey Ashley. I'm also on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. You could also hear the audio versions of these podcasts on Google Podcast, Apple iTunes Podcast, and Amazon Music and other various podcast platforms. I also air on local Brooklyn cable television 4 times a week. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Verizon, Optimum, RCN, and Spectrum. Thank you guys for listening. I want you guys to chill out. Think of the consequences of what you do and chill out, man. Don't wait till James Evans comes and fold up his arms looking at you all mean and everything. Anyways, I'm out. Be blessed, walk good. You will hear from me next week.